The story of Murray Bauman begins in the quiet, seemingly ordinary town of Hawkins, Indiana, a place that becomes the epicenter of extraordinary and terrifying events. Murray is not a soldier, a scientist, or a government agent. He is, at first glance, a disheveled, conspiracy theorist journalist running a low-rent private investigation service from a cluttered, paranoid home. But to dismiss him as just a crank is to miss the profound psychological journey of a man whose entire worldview is built on a simple, unshakable belief: the official story is a lie, and the world is far more dangerous and stranger than anyone admits. Murray Bauman is the archetypal survivalist, not because he stocks bunkers with canned food, but because he survives on a diet of suspicion and truth, and his preparation for the end is entirely mental and emotional. His story is a fascinating case study in the psychology of a survivalist, showing how a mind conditioned for the worst-case scenario is, tragically, the one best equipped to handle a reality that has indeed become the worst-case scenario. When we first meet Murray, his survivalism is expressed through his lifestyle. His home is a fortress of information, with walls papered in news clippings, red strings connecting conspiratorial dots, and a palpable sense of vigilant isolation. He is a man psychologically prepared for societal collapse because he believes it has already happened in a moral and truthful sense. The end he is preparing for is the collapse of transparency and the victory of shadowy powers. His survival tactics are interrogation, research, and verbal confrontation. He hones his skills not on a firing range, but in the art of reading people, poking holes in official narratives, and pushing others to confront uncomfortable truths. This is his armor. In a normal world, these traits make him an outcast, a bitter and lonely figure shouting into the void. But in Hawkins, where a secret government laboratory is tearing holes into a monstrous alternate dimension, Murray's paranoid preparedness is not a disorder, it is a prescient, vital skill set. The end he intuitively feared, a hidden invasion by a malevolent force, was precisely the end that arrived. His psychological readiness, his default setting of disbelief toward authority, meant he required no adjustment period to the horror. While others struggled to accept the impossible, Murray's reaction was a grim, "I knew it." The core of Murray's survivalist psychology is a profound and corrosive distrust, which becomes his greatest strength and his deepest wound. He trusts almost no one, assuming duplicity as a default. This is exhausting, both for him and for anyone around him. Yet, this very distrust saves lives. He doesn't believe the cover stories about Hawkins' lab. He immediately senses the manipulation in the Russian plot. His mind is a locked door, and he holds the only key, protecting the sensitive information entrusted to him by the likes of Joyce Byers and Jim Hopper. His preparation was the cultivation of this critical, adversarial mindset. He didn't need a go bag, he needed a go brain, one that was always running, always analyzing, always waiting for the other shoe to drop from a monster's foot. This constant state of alert is the classic psychological profile of a survivalist, a heightened sense of threat perception, where every detail is a potential clue to impending disaster. For most survivalists, this leads to isolation in a wilderness compound. For Murray, it led to isolation in a cluttered house, but the mental process was identical. The apocalypse he foresaw was just more surreal than most. However, the most compelling part of Murray's psychology is not his hardened exterior, but the cracks in it that reveal his humanity, and why he ultimately survives as more than just a functional paranoid. True survival, as his arc shows, is not a solo endeavor. The fascinating evolution is watching this hardened survivalist reluctantly, messily, reconnect with the very thing his philosophy rejects: other people. His partnership with Joyce and Hopper is the key. He begins as their abrasive, transactional guide into the underworld of conspiracy. But through shared trauma, fighting interdimensional creatures, uncovering Russian bases, losing friends, a bond forms. Murray's survivalist shell starts to soften. He risks his life not for a truth to publish, but for people he cares about. His famous scene calmly talking Hopper and Joyce through defusing a bomb in a Russian prison is the ultimate test of his psychology. The threat is real and immediate, but his focus is on keeping his friends calm and alive. The survivalist is now using his skills of clear, directive thinking in a crisis for a communal goal, not just personal vindication or safety. This culminates in his heartfelt, awkward eulogy for Hopper, a man he openly clashed with but deeply respected. The lone wolf finds a pack. By the time he is helping to rescue Hopper from a Russian gulag, or teaming up with the tech-savvy Jonathan and Argyle on a cross-country mission, Murray Bauman has transformed. His survivalist psyche has integrated a new, crucial variable: loyalty. He prepares for the end not just by hoarding knowledge, but by fortifying relationships. He learns that the mind prepared for betrayal must also make room for trust, or the soul will not survive even if the body does. His humor, once a weapon of sarcasm, becomes a tool for group morale. His observational skills, once used solely to deconstruct lies, are used to understand and support his struggling companions. This is the ultimate psychological survival tactic: adaptability. The rigid conspiracy theorist adapts to become a reliable, if still eccentric, member of a found family. In the end, Murray Bauman's story is a powerful metaphor for the modern survivalist condition. We live in an age of anxiety, of real and perceived threats, from global pandemics to political instability to the dizzying pace of technological change. The impulse to retreat, to build walls of information or supplies, to distrust the narrative, is understandable. Murray shows us the cost of that path, a life of loneliness and simmering anger. But he also shows us its potential value when tempered with human connection. His psychology was a suit of armor that kept him safe in a dangerous world, but it was the connections he forged, with Joyce, with the Byers family, with Hopper, that gave him a reason to wear it. Preparing for the end, his journey tells us, is as much about preparing your heart as it is about preparing your mind. You must know how to fight, how to think, how to distrust the right things, but you must also remember what is worth fighting for. Murray Bauman, the loud, paranoid, pepper spray-wielding truth seeker, ultimately survives the monstrous end of the world not because he was right about the conspiracy, but because he discovered, against all his own instincts, that he was not alone. And in that discovery, he found the one thing his survivalist psychology never accounted for: hope. His bunker was not his house, it was the loyal, chaotic, brave group of people he never expected to let inside.